The NFL killed defense on purpose. It all started in 1978. By the end of the 1977 season, the NFL had a business problem. Scoring was down. Defenses were beating the hell out of offenses. The league decided touchdowns sold better than those ugly 13-10 games where corners mugged receivers and quarterbacks spent all day in the dirt. Pete Rozelle and the owners rewrote the rules in '78 to give offenses more space and defense more ways to get flagged. Two changes did most of the damage. The first one has Mel Blount's name attached to it. The legendary Pittsburgh cornerback spent years developing a brutal style of physical coverage that other teams simply couldn't solve on the grass. Opposing coaches complained directly to the league office until the owners finally decided to listen. The 1978 rule restricted defenders to contact with receivers only within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. The league banned a man's craft because he was too good at it. The owners losing to him happened to have more money and more votes. Every pass interference flag you've ever seen wipe out a third down stop started with that single vote. They took the physical tools away from the defense and handed the offense a permanent advantage. Before we look at the second rule change, quick favor. I'm on a mission to hit my subscriber goal by the start of the season, so please hit that subscribe button and join the channel. The second change got way less attention, but it hit just as hard. Before 1978, pass blocking was tighter and more contained. Linemen had to keep their hands in close. Pass rushers could attack those arms. They could swat them down and slip inside. That forced the blocker to recover with his feet instead of just locking on and steering. Then the league changed the math. Offensive linemen could extend their arms and open their hands. The move a pass rusher used to knock hands away now gave the blocker a chance to grab a defender's chest. They could grab the shoulder pads with full extension and ride him past the pocket. If you won that first hand fight as a defender, the blocker could still refit and wash you wide. Defensive linemen saw their toolbox get cheaper overnight. The league also added a seventh official that same year to help monitor the field, while the new rules ensured the focus remained on the secondary. Completion percentage jumped within 2 seasons. Passing yards rose across the league, and sack rates fell as blockers used that arm extension to erase inside counters that used to win clean. The league called it clarification. The sales pitch was competitive balance. The reality was a one-way street. The league made defense easier to flag and passing easier to sustain. Look at scoring averages to see how owners manufactured this environment. In the 70s, teams averaged 19 to 20 points per game. By the end of the 2025 season, teams averaged 23 points. That was a managed climb. The television deals turned this into a closed loop that nobody wanted to break. Research covering 2002 to 2022 found a direct link between points on the scoreboard and money in the bank. High-scoring games brought in huge audiences, and those audiences let networks charge insane advertising prices. That ad money funded the billion-dollar media rights deals that go straight to the owners. Every time those owners voted to restrict how a defender could play, they were quite literally voting themselves a raise. The Lester Hayes situation shows exactly how the league picks and chooses its winners. Hayes grabbed 13 interceptions in 1980, while covered in so much stickum you could see his arms glistening on the game film. That interception record still stands today. The league banned the substance the very next year and claimed they were just protecting the integrity of the game. But then you look at Jerry Rice, who admitted on the radio that he used spray adhesive on his gloves for years. The league didn't strip a single stat or even issue a small fine. Rice got a gold jacket immediately, while Hayes had to wait over 40 years until 2024 to finally get his. One guy made it harder to score and the other made it easier, and we all know which one the NFL prefers. Once the front office realized this formula worked, they spent the next 2 decades sharpening their approach. The league spent years tweaking the rulebook to favor the passing game. They chipped away at legal contact until defenders had almost no room to operate. In 2004, that ongoing project turned into a total overhaul of how the game is played. The 2004 AFC Divisional Playoff showed every defensive coordinator in the country exactly how to win. The New England Patriots took the most explosive passing offense in history, led by Peyton Manning at the absolute peak of his powers, and then physically broke it. Patriots corners were bumping and rerouting receivers all over the field. They played a brand of contact coverage that pushed every boundary of the rulebook and held the Colts to just 3 points total. It was a dominant defensive performance. The league saw it as a marketing disaster. Manning was the face of the NFL, and his high-flying offense was the product they were trying to sell to the world. When the Patriots turned him into a frustrated quarterback who couldn't find an open man, they were damaging the merchandise from the league's perspective. That offseason, the NFL issued a new emphasis on illegal contact and defensive holding. They ignored the rulebook and told the refs to start throwing flags on contact that had been ignored for decades. Passing efficiency and penalties on pass defenses ticked up almost immediately. Receivers suddenly had wide open lanes to run in, and physical coverage became a huge liability. The league basically adjusted the rules to protect their star quarterbacks during the biggest moments of their careers. The real killer was the penalty structure. Illegal contact is a 5-yard penalty that comes with an automatic first down. That changes the entire game. A 5-yard flag on 3rd and long hands the offense a brand new set of downs regardless of how far they had to go. It's a drive extender disguised as a minor technicality. Compare that to offensive holding. When an offensive lineman tackles a pass rusher, it's a 10-yard penalty and the down is replayed. There's no automatic loss of down for the offense. The rulebook punishes defensive aggression far more severely than offensive cheating. When you run that play 150 times a year, you're structurally handing the offense extra possessions they didn't earn. Physical coverage specialists started vanishing from NFL rosters almost immediately after that. The press man cornerback who could jam a receiver at the line became a liability because the margin for error was gone. Any incidental contact now had the power to keep an opponent's drive alive, and coaches couldn't afford to keep these players on the field. Restricting the defensive backs was a good start for the league. Their most valuable assets needed more than just room to run. They needed total personal security. By 2006, the league had already placed severe limits on how defenders could cover receivers. The next step was making the quarterback himself essentially untouchable. This expansion of roughing the passer was added in layers that were usually attached to a specific injury. Every time a star went down, the league added a rule that made it politically impossible to argue against. Carson Palmer tore his ACL on a hit below the knee in January of 2006, so the league banned low hits on quarterbacks in the pocket later that year. When Tom Brady went down with a knee injury in 2008, the league added another layer of protection in 2009. They banned defenders on the ground from lunging at a quarterback's knees. That became known as the Brady Rule, and it was just the beginning of the protection rules. Then came the body weight provision, which told pass rushers they couldn't land on the quarterback with full force, even when they arrived on time. They added rules against head and neck contact on any pocket play. Then the 2018 wording adjustment changed landing with all weight from requiring 2 conditions to just 1. That single word change triggered 34 roughing calls in the first 3 weeks of 2018 alone. Look at the math for a defensive end trying to do his job. He can't hit low or high, and he definitely can't land on the quarterback with his body weight. This forces a 280-pound man to redirect his entire momentum mid-air on a play that develops in under 3 seconds. The margin for error for a legal sack vanished. Players spent a decade building their pass rush technique. Suddenly, they found themselves flagged for doing exactly what their coaches taught them. Clay Matthews exposed this impossible standard in 2018. He picked up 3 roughing the passer calls that season on plays that looked like routine sacks to every former defensive lineman in a broadcast booth. Those flags cost the Packers multiple games. He eventually said publicly that the rule had made his position unplayable, but the league's only response was a memo. He played 1 more season and was out of the league because the game he grew up playing didn't exist anymore. In 2000, the NFL averaged 2.48 sacks per team per game, but by the end of the 2025 season, that figure had dropped to 2.3. That's a steady decline in successful pass rush plays over 25 years, and it happened during a period when teams spent more money on edge rushers than almost any other position. Front offices kept paying premium prices for pass rushers, while the rules made pass rushing progressively harder to execute without drawing a flag. Meanwhile, completion percentages climbed from 58.5% in 2000 to 65.2% today, and passing yards per game jumped from 222 to 238.7. These protection rules made every quarterback statistically better by removing the consequences of holding the ball too long. The defensive linemen absorbing those hits suffer more concussions per snap than the quarterbacks they're chasing, yet the safety rules that expanded around the stars never extended to the blue-collar players taking the most punishment. Offensive holding happens on a huge percentage of every passing play, but it only gets called on roughly 2 to 3% of actual infractions. The enforcement asymmetry is completely structural. It tells you exactly who the league values. Defensive flags actually fell 22% since 2015. The league didn't get lenient, defenders just accepted defeat. They play tentatively now because the cost of a flag is too high. Keeping quarterbacks healthy on the field kept them highly marketable in the commercials. The league wanted to protect the engines of their multi-billion-dollar media rights deals. Quarterbacks drive television ratings. Quarterbacks drive jersey sales. The rules ensured the players generating that revenue stayed on the screen. Offensive players account for over 85% of the top 20 best-selling jerseys in any recent season, and quarterbacks absolutely dominate that list. The financial consequences of these rules show up right on the stadium store racks. Wide receivers fill out the middle, while running backs only appear when they score enough touchdowns to stay relevant. The top 5 sellers from the 2025 NFLPA licensing window were absolutely dominated by quarterbacks. Jalen Hurts and Josh Allen held the top spots. 2 rookies, Jaden Daniels and Shedeur Sanders, also made the cut. Saquon Barkley was the lone running back who managed to crack that top tier. Defensive players occasionally break into the top 50, but they are outliers who get there because of big personality or massive market size rather than their actual positional value. The rulebook engineers those highlight reel moments that move merchandise. The league knows exactly how this retail machine operates. When they relaxed the jersey number rules in 2021, allowing more skill position players to wear single digits, it wasn't about player expression, it was a calculated marketing strategy. Analysts immediately noted the change would trigger a massive wave of new purchases because fans rush to buy the updated look the second a star receiver switches to a clean single digit. The league even forced players who wanted to change numbers to buy out the entire remaining unsold inventory of their old jerseys first. They protected their profit margins while manufacturing a brand new demand cycle. Then, in 2023, they authorized the number 0, creating yet another wave of retail hype. There's no public spreadsheet directly linking a specific roughing the passer penalty to a specific jersey sale. The relationship is mechanistic. Offensive rules increase scoring. High-scoring teams win more games. Winning teams get more primetime media exposure. That exposure turns offensive skill players into cultural icons, and those icons sell the gear. Look at the raw power of visibility. When Taylor Swift showed up to watch Travis Kelce, his jersey sales spiked over 400% in a single day. The NFL doesn't need to manipulate the retail market directly when they can just rig the rulebooks to do the heavy lifting for them. They built an ecosystem where the most heavily protected players are also the most profitable. Fans buy jerseys of the guys they see making plays on third down, and the rulebook spent 40 years engineering more of those plays for offensive skill positions while erasing the guys trying to stop them. The salary market reflects the same pressure because edge rushers and coverage corners can still command elite contracts since sacks and interceptions remain visible and dramatic. But the traditional run stopper, the box safety who stuffed gaps and controlled the line of scrimmage in a 17-10 win, has been largely priced out of premium contracts. Teams don't pay for what the rules have made less decisive, so they focus their spending on the positions the rules made more decisive, which are almost entirely offense. Under the current collective bargaining agreement, players receive 48% of the league's aggregate revenue, and that pool has grown every year as the television money expanded. But the rules determine who inside that pool gets the largest share of the pie. A quarterback extension worth $250 million gets funded by the same revenue that a box safety and a third cornerback split in practice squad money. The rulebook shaped how the game gets played. It also built the pay scale for everyone who puts on a helmet. Defensive players now need to be multi-purpose to earn premium money. They have to cover tight ends down the seam while still blitzing off the edge. The job also requires tackling running backs in open space. Defenders must execute all of this without ever drawing a flag that extends a drive. The specialist is being phased out because the rules demand a level of versatility that the old school specialist was never built to provide. The coverage corner who can only play press man or the strong safety who only defended the run exists in a rules environment that no longer exists. The league kept paying for a product that the defense couldn't deliver, and then they kept changing the rules to make sure it stayed that way. And just when you think the rulebook can't get more hostile to the guys on the other side of the ball, they prove you wrong. The 2024 hip drop tackle ban proves the league expects defenders to do the impossible. The defensive strike zone keeps shrinking. If a defender wraps up a ball carrier and drops his weight to finish the play, the refs toss a flag and march off 15 yards. The league pointed at injury data and talked about lower leg damage, using player safety as the shield to justify the change. JJ Watt is a 3-time Defensive Player of the Year. He spent his entire life learning how to execute a legal, devastating hit. He didn't hold back. He told the world the league might as well just switch to flag football now. A technical expert looked at the new rules and explained that the rulebook has officially become a joke. Watt knows exactly how hard it is to bring down a modern running back in the open field. The guys actually on the field are just as confused as the fans in the stands. In November of 2025, Frankie Louvu and several other Washington Commanders defenders admitted they still didn't know what counted as a hip drop in real time. The NFL banned a fundamental way to tackle without giving defenders a replacement that actually works against a 250-pound running back full tilt. The league expects defenders to just figure it out while the offense isn't asked to change a single thing. The 2025 rulebook kept the pressure on the defense by making it even easier for quarterbacks to avoid sacks. A new clarification to the intentional grounding rule lets quarterbacks throw the ball away more often by expanding the definition of the pocket. They also tweaked pre-snap motion rules to let offenses stretch a defense sideways before the ball is even snapped. Even the overtime rules got a makeover to guarantee both teams a possession, which really just means more offensive snaps and more chances to run up the score. Every single adjustment was designed to create more points. The offense got free yardage and wider margins for error. The league even handed them guaranteed overtime possessions. Rich McKay is the co-chair of the competition committee. In February of 2026, he claimed the game was in a great place. The front office refuses to acknowledge the damage. There was no reversal of the bad rules and no admission that defenders can't legally tackle in ways that actually work. The league refuses to admit that 46 years of rule changes have turned the defensive rulebook into something that looks like it was written by a TV executive. In the 70s, a defender could jam a receiver all the way down the field, and in the 90s, a pass rusher could actually drive a quarterback into the turf. By the early 2000s, a safety could still punish anyone trying to cross the middle, but none of those players are allowed to exist anymore. The rules erased them one clarification at a time. Now, defenders have to cover their corners and tackle without making real contact in a game built to stop them from doing their jobs. The war on defense never ended. It just has a better PR department now. Quick favor, I'm on a mission to hit my subscriber goal by the start of the season, so be a super fan for the channel and hit the subscribe button. Then drop a comment letting me know which rule change finally made you realize the league wasn't being straight with us.